Hello, and welcome back to the Nightingale Private Library. My name is Timothy, and I am the owner and administrator of the library. As this year comes to a close, I feel it is important that we reflect on some of the wonderful books that have been released in the last 12 months, and in particular, 5 of the top young adult fantasy novels of 2020. Unfortunately, the Nightingale Private Library is currently unable to loan any materials, and so I strongly encourage you to check these books out at your local public or community library. Additionally, if you are watching this on the Nightingale Private Library blog, any of the titles or images on the page will link you to the Halifax Public Library's catalog, where you can request the book with your library card if you are in the Halifax Regional Municipality. The first book that I wanted to highlight is one that I, like many, have been waiting to read for much of the last year, that being Aidan Thomas's debut novel, Cemetery Boys. In this fast-paced and engaging story, 16-year-old Yadriel, a Latino transgender man, will need all the help he can get solving the murder of Julian when a summoning proving he is a brujo goes wrong. Written by Aidan Thomas, a transgender and non-binary author, Cemetery Boys seeks to meet the needs for diverse representation in media while also telling an interesting and encapsulating story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Set in East Los Angeles, this book takes readers through the life of someone who wants nothing more than to prove themselves to their loved ones and be accepted for their identity, something that many of us who enjoy the YA fantasy genre can relate to. Additionally, Cemetery Boys brings the important perspective of a person of color living in the United States to the fantasy genre, written by someone who himself is a person of color and likely shares experiences with Yadriel. While it is written with magic and mystery tied into its story, Cemetery Boys also shows the raw emotion and experiences that queer youth around the world have in wanting acceptance from their family, and the real-life dangers that transgender people face daily. The second book in this list is the debut novel of Roseanne Abraham, and the first book in a duology that draws in West African folklore, A Song of Wraiths and Rune. In this intense and action-packed story, Karina, a crown princess, and Malik, a refugee fleeing his war-torn and impoverished home, must each make a decision that will change their lives forever. Save the ones they love, or fall to the rising darkness. Unfortunately for both of them, the worst of their problems is yet to come and will be found where it is least expected amidst the magic, murder, and mayhem that will find them in the city of Zeran. A Song of Wraiths and Rune touches on the age-old problem of forbidden love, but in a way that fleshes out the conflicts between the individuals involved and creates a sense of relatability to the reader. Furthermore, A Song of Wraiths and Rune brings the perspective of people of color that is often missing from romance novels, and most certainly from the traditional happily ever after, and makes it into something that is more diverse and inclusive, but also authentic and desired. Instead of throwing two broken-hearted people into a situation and having them grow together for the better, it is brutal and dangerous and will require sacrifice if either of them are to achieve their goals. Nor does Grace paint Karina as the typical damsel in distress, as while the walls are closing in quickly, she stays strong and committed to her goal, knowing that her decisions do matter and that she is in fact worthy of her throne, no matter what anyone else tells her. Continuing with the trend of princesses fighting for the rights to their throne comes All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace, an action-packed story that will take Princess Amora from the warmth and safety of her castle to the very depths of the sea. The first book in a duology, All the Stars and Teeth follows the life of Amora, a girl thrown to the wolves that are the monarchs of Visidia, magic users who rule with their mastery over souls. Unlike normal people in Visidia, who can choose which magic path they wish to learn, Amora must learn animancy to become the throne's successor, but mastering dangerous magic is not an easy task. All the Stars and Teeth brings together many of the beloved factors and tropes of the young adult fantasy genre with monarchies, magic, and monsters. But unlike the tales as old as time, Amora gets to choose her own path and decide what is right for her. Adeline Grace uses her debut novel to fight for the idea that not all princesses are damsels in distress, and not all monsters are truly evil, nor are they always where you expect to find them. In this culturally diverse story with a strong female lead, Adeline Grace does not shy away from bringing real-life experiences and dangers to the table and crafting her characters' pasts, and although it is a fictional story written in a fantasy world, the emotions feel real and relatable. Amora will see and experience the suffering dealt to the people of Visidia by her bloodline, and she will need to be strong if she wants to face the dark truth of magic that is more of a curse than a blessing. Curses and evil queens are the least of Sophie's worries in Jennifer Donnelly's Poisoned, a retelling of the beloved story of Snow White and her beauty and tragedy that shook the world forever. Following the original Brothers Grimm fairy tale of Snow White, Poisoned maintains the dark and creepy tone of its inspiration and leaves Sophie bleeding to death in the forest without a heart. Fortunately, her heart will be replaced by a mechanism, but she will never be the same and must face not only what it means to be part machine, but what it means to be human and to trust. Through her compelling lyrical writing, Jennifer Donnelly paints the picture of a girl who has withstood countless attempts to crush her spirit and break her kindness, her peers wanting to mold her into something inhumane. Poison brings to light the idea that just because we know something or somebody does not mean we should always trust them, and that happiness is not always guaranteed, but we should still fight for it. Poison follows on the heels of Donnelly's previous retelling of Cinderella, Stepsister, with the shared themes of redefining oneself and standing strong against anyone who tells you that you are not good enough. This book is created to inspire, entertain, and create conversation about what makes us who we are and why it is important to stand firm, even when we feel like we may never have a happily ever after. Happily Never After could be the case for Cordelia in Cassandra Clare's newest book, Chain of Gold, as she struggles to define herself in a world where she has been trained to be a hero, but is also told who to marry and how to live her life. Set in 1903 in the city of London, this action-packed story follows Cordelia as she is thrown into the deep end of the Shadowhunter world, and with it, everything from demons to romance. Cassandra Clare's descriptive writing ties the genres of historical fiction and romance together with Chain of Gold's focal point of fantasy through her use of magic and the unknown dangers posed by unleashed powers and dark forces. Additionally, she explores the idea of forbidden love and conflict and relationships through her characters in ways that leaves them vulnerable and exposed as everyday people instead of just fictional demon fighters with magical weapons and powers. While this book is not as diverse as the others in characters, it brings different ideas to the table and explores not only the idea of making your own choices as the hero of your own story, but also the price and sacrifice that can follow. Furthermore, it dives into the plot of a city under complete lockdown as monsters that normal humans cannot see ravage and devastate London. And unlike other demons the Shadow Hunters have faced before, this new threat is supposedly unkillable and poses a much greater risk to all of humanity. One thing I would note with Chain of Gold is that while it is the first book in the Last Hours trilogy, it is actually part of the larger Shadowhunters universe and serves as a prequel to the original Mortal Instruments series and a sequel to the Infernal Devices. While Chain of Gold might not contain heavy spoilers for other parts of the series, and Cassandra Clare herself has said that you can read it without needing to read other books in the series, it is still highly suggested that if you wish to invest your time into the series as a whole, that you check out the reading order for all of Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter books to avoid potential spoilers. Thank you for your support of the Nightingale Private Library, and I hope that this book list helps you find your next YA fantasy read.